What is up, everybody? Welcome back. Now, it's been a minute to the Grim Verdict podcast. It's been, well, actually, not a minute. It's been precisely 7 months, Grim. We've been slacking, or rather, I've been
Hey, we've
slacking.
been absent. We've been absent.
We've been absent. So, welcome everybody. First and foremost, Happy New Year, because we really haven't seen each other for quite some time. I wish you the best in this upcoming New Year. We're still like middle of January, and we hope to be able to deliver these in a more regular schedule. No promises, because apparently we don't do good on those. And
Apparently.
we kind of suck. But anyway, just a little bit of a catch up before we continue into today's episode, which Grim doesn't absolutely have any clue what it is about.
No idea.
It's gonna be super fun because we've done some things, Grim. Now we are changing, and probably people watching this right now or listening to it, if you guys see the background, you might be seeing two very weird things, unfamiliar classes perhaps. Now, Grim, what did you do? Tell those people, what did you do, man?
I got sick of waiting for my male paladin, so I made my own.
He's like,
Pretty much.
he was like, guys, Grim hit me one day and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna play a male paladin. I'm like, so what, suck warrior? I was like expecting something, and he's like, nah, Musa. So I was so confused for a moment, but honestly, he made it work. And it's so interesting how he made it work, because he was this might be a little bit of role playing. Honestly, it is. Let's be honest about it. It is a little bit of role playing, but that's fun, and I don't find anything wrong with that. I'm role playing as well. But the thing is that, you know, you never look into Musa and you're like, yo, that's a paladin. But Grim put on some pieces and it actually turned into a paladin, which is super freaking cool. It's actually great, dude. So it's like a fire Musa sliding paladin. It really functions. It's like I see the fantasy. And yeah, kudos, dude. I was skeptical, you know, I was a little bit ridiculing you at the start, but then you kind of made it work.
Just let me cook.
Yeah, let you cook, for real. Put me on spot with that. But yeah, Grim is a Musa, and I am a Seraph, and I'm proud.
You saw that coming.
I'm a Seraph. I'm proud of that. I no longer miss Mystic. Seraph is just something spectacular. It's just something that I've always wanted, and I'm pleased with it, not just from a lore perspective. Obviously, that was a masterpiece of a storytelling. Also from just gameplay, she is perfect. She is the class which I like, that setup. All of those 100%, initially skeptical, we all were, but now they're like super fun, so we had to let PA cook a little bit. So yeah, we're Verdict the Mystic is now Verdict the Seraph, and Grim is basically Grim the what do you call it, the Musa. So,
A paladin.
The paladin Musa, Musaladin.
Yeah.
All right. So we have that going on. But yeah, thank you so much for just waiting for us as we were cooking this episode. Recently, we've been talking about it again, and we are aligning finally. Real life for me is doing a lot better, and for Grim, and we can return. We'll see if it all goes smooth from now on. But Grim, we gotta go into the episode, dude.
Yeah, but before that, we gotta plug the Discord.
Oh, we actually do, dude. I got carried away. See, we haven't done this in a while, man. Grim, tell them about the Discord, dude.
Well, that's just where you're gonna find all our episodes and everything. If you have questions, that's where we're gonna be.
Indeed,
It should be in the description, right?
Absolutely, it will be. But you know, Grim, YouTube are cucking us because we were returning. And whenever you're not a partnered channel, technically all my channels are partnered without this one, and I'm not sure why it doesn't translate directly to it. But we don't have a link, so you have to copy the caption, like the case sensitive thing, to actually get into the Discord. So be ready for that. And Grim, do you have any guesses?
I thought with Seraph, maybe we're gonna go over the history of like alienism, maybe.
Although it would be very fun, sadly that's not gonna be it for today. But I promise
about the dragons?
It's coming. The dragons, no, we're not there yet. But I won't torture you. I'm just gonna kind of hint that we had recently a very big content release above Valencia. All right.
Yeah.
And we had like 5 bosses there. All right. And those 5 bosses have very important stories, and they actually are a leeway to so much lore and storytelling, to the point where they're kind of all worthy of their own episode. Probably Rusalka will be tough to fix within an hour, But if you think about it, dude, there's only one boss out of them that deserves two.
That's Caphras.
It's Caphras. We gotta talk about Caphras again.
Again? Oh my.
Again.
Spoiling me.
Oh, dude. Well, I mean, there's no really spoilering you because you've saw it, you've seen it, so it's not gonna be a spoiler. But to the people wondering why, let me explain why are we talking about Caphras, considering the final episode. I mean, I guess the latest episode 7 months ago was about Caphras. Well, when our boy dropped in Edania, he decided to rewrite Black Desert's lore, basically, and he was absolutely outstanding as a performance, his voice acting, as a piece of story. It was so insane to the point where Caphras in Edania as a boss, and every time he opened up his mouth, Grim, he was spitting some freaking forbidden knowledge. It was like you couldn't, every sentence I had to pause. I have this, I think, available over at YouTube on my main channel. I'm having my reactions there, and my hands are on my head all the time. It was insane. But the reason for Caphras today is because by some divine intervention, Grim, when we did the first episode, we spoke about the gods. The second episode, we spoke about Sylvia and Elvia, right?
Yeah.
Then we went into Ataraxian with Zethian, and he was a special guest there. That episode went up. Really cool. And then we did Orzeka, the Horrors of Orzeka, which is by far the best thumbnail I've ever made. I love that thumbnail so much.
I showed that recently too. It's so good.
It's so freaking good. And then we did Caphras. And now here's the thing. We jumped on the Caphras one. It wasn't canonical because we were trying to go canonically. Oh, and by the way, I guess we did an episode which never released because of me being a stupid idiot. Remember that? We did that.
Yes,
that was so stupid. So we did an episode, and dudes, I got a piece of lore so wrong to the point where it twisted and perversed the entirety of the dragon lore. And I never knew that it was so wrong. And it's something bothered me about that episode. And right as I was editing, I was like, no, that's not really true, is it? So I went fact-checked it, and out of the prism of one mistake, the lore changed so fundamentally to the point where I had to delete the episode. So the dragon lore is coming. We'll see when precisely within the next few episodes, most definitely. But the reason for which we're talking about Caphras is because everything that Caphras opened up his mouth on, and not just Caphras, all of the Edania bosses actually pair in perfectly with the first 5 episodes that we did. So perfectly to the point where Caphras pretty much, if you are someone who started from episode 1 to episode 5 and now we did Caphras part 2, you will get a profoundly better understanding of those episodes because all the connections, all of the spoken things from all of the bosses actually pair up perfectly with all that we've spoken about so far. So today is not really a Caphras episode 2, it's more or less a very important taking a little bit out of every boss and putting that into the first 5 episodes because they're already out. It's like a divine thing to just kind of finish the first bubble of the lore podcast. So
that makes sense. Also, Caphras's voice actor is perfect.
Caphras' voice actor is insane. That man, by the way, I complained to Pearl Abyss, literally, personally to them, and I was like, how do you not have, like, a little bit of diligence to credit the voice actors on IMDb? And it's like, they're kind of like, oh, whoops, sorry about that, and then they started updating all of those things, so we finally know who Caphras' voice actor is, and I'm chasing the dude. I'm just saying, I am chasing him for something. I won't say anything. I'm chasing the guy, and not just him, another person as well. But, you know, I will not to put the carrot in front of the horse here, you know, all in due time, all in due time. A little bit of a teaser here and there, you know. But let's get into the Edania 5, because holy absolute moly. When Pearl Abyss were saying that they would be tying all of the loose ends, like what they said, I think it was on the past Calpheon Ball, which is like, I guess, a year ago, I didn't believe them. I was like, nah, you don't know your lore for you to do that. Well, they put me on my freaking place. Not only did they know their lore, they let us know that they know their lore better than we know their lore. And that was a little bit of a humbling experience. It's so freaking cool. Yes, they know what they're doing. And one thing that I won't give them a slack cut, I guess, on is that they don't really care about redacting properly, so they are going to leave something old within the game instead of redacting it, and they're going to contradict it with some new piece of knowledge. And if you lead yourself by the new, then it's no issue. But if you start from the end and you watch like one of my videos and then you go through Edania, it's like, yo, Verdict is full of shit. You know, that's one of the things. That's something similar to what happens if you go into Edania first and then you try to fill it with the background. It's not gonna make any sense, dude. And we've addressed this, we the lore keepers, I mean. We've addressed this with PA. We spoke with them and yo, PA, you need to rework Orzekea and Orzeka because it no longer makes any sense. But Caphras was game breaking. But before Caphras, we have the first boss, Jordine. Now, Jordine was cool in his own way, and not that much lore he himself provided, but Jordine is a continuation of a hanging plotline from the Magnus. And basically, when younger Jordine exited the Magnus with us, that's how he ends up. You know, he heard about our Jordine, I guess, and there was a little bit of a conflict there because he wanted to avenge himself in reality. And the entirety of this thing happens in a very Caphras-oriented way. So let me explain something. If you're a new player, Grim, I don't know if you've done the reworks to Balanos. Have you done those?
Briefly.
Yeah. So under 5 minutes within the game, when you get inside the Ancient Stone Chamber, there are those slates inside. And those slates, the first one that you get to see is the explosion of Crown Castle, which our boy is a part of. Caphras, that is. So essentially, Jordine has found a slate 1-to-1 identical but with additional information, and he has hidden it around his castle. And we go through and we get inside this entire thing, and we figured out that that is the Crown Castle explosion. And that's when we figure out that this is the first bit of Noir Bertali, which I know you have plenty to talk about.
It's definitely a sage.
I know you have definitely a lot to say about this, and I cannot, no matter what I've done, ladies and gentlemen, I have given this man concrete evidence against this, and he refuses it. He just doesn't care.
PA would have to sway me.
Oh my goodness. But without putting anything in front, we got to go through Jordine. And Jordine himself ends up in a very cool, yet in my opinion, horrific way, where we defeat him, he sheds his mortal coil, he leaves his soul and enters the young Jordine, and the young Jordine essentially has a seizure. And that's one of the weird things. So we're not sure who Jordine is right now inside and is taking dominancy. But I think what may have happened is we might have done a little bit of a whoopsie with OG Jordine. But that's a little bit of a prelude. You know, Jordine's story was not supposed to be a big part of Edania. He was supposed to be an entry point. Once you defeat Jordine, then you go into the other castles by your own choice, whoever you wish to attend first. And the second boss, of course, Rusalka. Now, Rusalka I didn't even care too much about her because I didn't really believe that she could add a lot of complexity and depth and knowledge. But oh my god, was I proven wrong. Because Rusalka ends up being such a complicated character. At the start, you kind of see this super narcissistic, all about me queen that is essentially punishing the Hashashin. She's turning them to stone, and not just her, she's turning her people to stone. And you're really hating her because she is really cocky. She's very rude. But she's a queen of a species. She's a mother of a species. You know, think of it like this. If Sylvia, not to say that they're on the same power level, if Sylvia is the mother of all elves, you know, the Vadir, the Ganel, and the Luthergons, the male elves, and Rusalka is the mother of all merfolk, then you're kind of looking at it as something similar, you know, if you're in a comparison way. So Rusalka tells us about Orzeka Grimm in profound detail. And we know so much more about Orzeka's expansion into an empire through Rusalka. And Rusalka speaks about how the merfolk were, you know, they wanted to be a part of Orzeka in a sense, but then they saw what Orzeka was doing to them. So Rusalka took whichever refugees would come and follow her, and they would essentially exit and run away far into Edania. And the idea here is that she explains to us so much in detail about the expansionism, because we have heard in the past and we didn't touch upon this within the Orzeka episode, but there was this relic, Grim, during the Echidna Convent. If you remember, the Onel, the creation, the unfortunate children stuck on the trees to eat the fruits, perpetual batteries.
Yeah, I told this recently.
Oh, you told this recently on the stream? That's so cool. People are coming into our streams and just asking lore stuff. That's so freaking cool, man. We're pivoting something here, dude. Honestly, we are.
There you go.
And Rusalka tells us about this artifact that the Orzekans were using with assistance of Onel, and we don't know what this artifact is, but this artifact was immediately providing control over body and mind to the people who were using this artifact. And Rusalka's entire arc was essentially those that were haunted by this artifact. She would turn into stone, and she would essentially lose her mind because she was turning her own kids to stone because they would otherwise lose themselves and start kill each other. And that was one of the most brutal things, and you get a different bit of Rusalka at that particular moment. And also there is a side quest which you don't get to do within the quest chain, and I managed to find the side quest and I did it, and it shows how Rusalka, she calls humans two-legged beasts, rightfully so. Compared to her, she's royalty, in a sense, but also she's a queen. She's the typical stereotype, and she is being captured by these men. And they do some hideous things to her, and yet she doesn't retaliate. She has love, right? And one of the things which that ends up doing within that quest, if I remember correctly, it was like probably 4 months ago that I did it. That quest ends up being with Rusalka pretty much being entry towards her insanity within that very quest chain. She let herself be captured. She let herself be not violated in the way which you think, but rather they did some
not Vaporeon level.
Yeah, it was bad. And she became insane not insane, but that was the key moment. That was the beginning of her insanity. And then sooner or later, she became almost as if alone. And within Rusalka's question, we also get to see Corsair's mother for a bit. We actually do get a cutscene with her, Viola, her name. And she gets to save us while we were drowning because Rusalka, I believe it was Rusalka that was trying to essentially lure us into drowning, and Viola came through and she saved us, although not confirmed if it's Rusalka. But anyways, Rusalka was so beautiful, and in the end, within her despair, Hadum shows up for the first time in Black Desert with his, or rather, now her visuals, and we get to understand Hadum is a female. She is indeed something that we're going to talk about shortly. But that visual of Hadum was spectacular. That was so cool. If you remember with the thorn, with the lack of head and kind of like something coming out of the body, it's so weird.
Almost spectral.
Yes, almost spectral. That's a good way to put it. And that's the very first time, if we consider the ancient stone chamber slates from back in the day, where we have Kafris showing something that we presume to be Hadum. Kafris is weird. But anyways, Rusalka ends up losing her life in regret. And it speaks a lot to her story as an individual, because Rusalka is essentially, if I gave myself to Orzeka, would things have been different? All she wanted was to live. All she wanted was for her children to live and to be free. That's all they wanted. And in the end, she chose despair. She chose Hadum just so she could save them. Just so she could save them all.
She even quotes this feeling in a fight when she says things like, I won't let you touch my kin.
Exactly.
Stuff like that.
Exactly. Yes, she does this. And we are an invader to her place because this is where she is. Nymphomare and the Sea of Dreams, which is like their pocket dimension in a sense. The Sea of Dreams, this is where the merfolk are essentially a part of. That's a natural occurring place there. I think from all of the castles, Nymphomare is actually the only real one that has been there already, because that's where the kingdom was for them. And Rusalka is amazing. Rusalka is amazing. I love her so much. And I wish more comes to her. We get also how Patrigo and Viola meet. We get the birth of Corsair. We get what Patrigo for the first time not being a selfish prick. But then
it's crazy.
It's crazy, right? And then they go into this romance, and it's with a lot of detail. It's very cool. I loved it. But enough about Rusalka. We have to talk about what I'm going to say was actually the centerpiece of Edania, which almost shunned Kafris away when it came to hype. And that happened afterwards, but Enslar and Elion and Seraph, of course, the Ashen Wing at the
Yeah,
time.
it was really good. I mean, how did she get out the Ultimate Blood?
Well,
But then we figure out the Seraph lore and it makes sense.
No, Seraph wasn't in the Altar of Blood. What do you mean?
No. I'm saying we figure out she wasn't actually in there because it was Seraph that gave herself up.
Oh, never mind. Oh, that was a theory of mine. Yeah. For the people wondering, I had a theory about Enslar. And it was a very, very, very plausible theory. It was an educated guess out of a few theories that we had. When Enslar died, where you summon Kavros is an entry to the Altar of Blood within the so-called quote-unquote abyss. Different places within this world have an entry point. If you guys remember the old Calpheon Shrine question for Kazarka, that's an entry point to the Altar of Blood. The Serendia Shrine is an entry point of the Altar of Blood, and the Stars End Shrine is an entry point to the Abyss, aka Altar of Blood. And we thought that when Enslar died, Kazarka took him with her, and whatever happened. But that's a little bit of, nothing important anymore, sadly. Yeah. It would have been a very
It was a pretty good theory, though.
It was a good theory, but it would have led to Necromancer so perfectly well. Yeah. But anyways, I'm disgruntled, but happy that I am. So we can just move on. What a story. What a Black Desert story. Every boss talks about a certain period in time. We have Jardine with his details and him being kind of like the current story. We have Rusalka of the old, 8,000 years ago or 6,000 years ago, depending. We have then Enslar that speaks about the recent 100, etc., etc. And Enslar and the Ashen Wing is such a powerful story. It's essentially, there is this book by this famous person. I just don't want to mention names to not start any controversies, but the book is called We Who Wrestled with God. And that's precisely what Enslar is. Wrestling with the idea of God and for the God's obligation as if to make sense to her. And it is such a poetic thing because it speaks on the topics of what is actually justice. It speaks on the topics of what is actually the right following to a deity. And who are you to presume those things? And Enslar is one of the very first characters within Mythos that I sympathize so much, not just on a personal level, but also inside the game. She is a brilliant character with so much depth and complexity, and she is so Black Desert oriented. She's a Valkyrie of Calpheon. The main storyline is there. She gets to put so much emphasis upon it. She gets to tell us so much, and then Seraph, aka the Ashen Wing, tells us even more about it through her story. But that's for another time. But I want to brag about it, actually, Grim. If you remember, you probably know what I'm going to talk about now, but Seraph's voice actress actually came to one of the videos and said, "Hi, what a cool thing, dude."
That was so cool.
That was so cool. Like, she didn't have to do that, but yet she did. I'm not sure why she did it. I'm not sure who told her, someone told her. I'm not sure if she plays BDO. I have absolutely no idea. But she just came through, said something very nice, and we just bombarded her with love because that's the right thing to do. This has never happened before. I don't think this has ever happened before. Honestly, it's just so cool. But yeah, love Miss Sharp, love her so much. And that Seraph and Enslar will be an episode. 100% will be an episode. I can't imagine us not going through that when we get to the Calpheon bit, because she is Calpheon essential. Like, you can't go to Calpheon without that. And yeah, Seraph and Enslar are absolutely peak BDO gameplay. You get to learn about everything that BDO is made of. You get to learn about Elion, you get to learn about the Valkyries, Calpheon, about Seraph and everything. And it's not just that. We heard for the first time in Black Desert's history, Kazarka speak. Now that was great. And he is voice acted, if I'm not mistaken, by Tobirama from Naruto, and that's one powerful voice. That is one hell of a voice. But we got to move away, as much as I don't want to Cartian. And here is where things go overboard with lore. So the first three are kind of generic, modern BDO, fill a little bit of the gaps. And then when Enslar comes through, it really picks up a pace. And then Cartian comes through, and Cartian just says so many things so casually as if they don't matter. She's like, oh, by the way, I'm Deborica. What?
By the way, I'm the mother of all women. Like, what?
Yeah, she speaks about those things so casually in such a way where I am not able to contain myself, because one of the biggest mysteries within Black Desert's lore is the nature and who the hell Deborica is. We never knew. And I'm working right now on a video specifically about the mystery of Deborica for the main channel. And I can tell you so much about that without wanting to spoil. But Cartian is human. She is human to the full extent of human. And in lore, she is the strongest human. You know how Caphras is like the strongest elf, Luthragon, the male? Well, Cartian is the strongest human by a mile. And
if she's Deborica, wouldn't that mean she has a hatred of all the living?
There is a very good explanation for that. And I'm glad you asked that, because we're going to touch upon it just in a moment.
Okay.
But Cartian is freaking insane, because she is what happens when your mortality cannot keep up with your aspiration for divinity. That is such an important little bit. And let me just elaborate on this. So Cartian is a person who is beyond depressed. And she feels this empty void inside of her soul, this inside of her chest, and she is not able to fulfill her desires to become more powerful. And Cartian is not an Edana. It's a very important thing. Cartian is, she tried to force herself to become an Edana. She was chasing immortality in a sense, and immortality through power. And the entirety of the idea was that she took the second strongest black spirit that we know of, a primordial black spirit. I'll put it on the thing. But Grim, do you recall? There is this trailer from Elezra from 2017. There's this black spirit sitting in front of a dark orb. Do you recall that? Maybe you've seen it. Perhaps not.
Isn't that Cartian's black spirit? And isn't that guarding the Book of Sorcery?
Precisely. It is him. It is precisely him.
Yeah.
And or it rather, and that is her black spirit. It's the second strongest that we know of. Ours is the first one, and Wuju is, I guess, the third one, although Wuju is on a whole different scale. But anyways, the idea here is that she tried to force herself to become an Edana, or in reality, there was no natural symbiosis here. She was forcing it to become an Edana. And let me tell you what happens when that happens. If you try to force the black spirit, he zaps you instantly and you die. So
amazing.
Amazing. So Cartian basically forced him into submission for hundreds of years in a simulation of an Edana. And that guy was revolting like mad, and he was killing her from the inside. He was shattering her body to pieces. And Cartian was essentially almost as if like a walking husk at one point, and she's written in a very depressing way, and she speaks about this horrible way that she feels, and all of that changes when she meets Caphras for the first time in Hexa, when she is Deborica.
I thought she first met him on Ilia Island. Where's all this coming from?
Well, that is because she is first Deborica, then she is Cartian of Tarif, and then she is Gabriella of Ilia. Right, so
how did Caphras not recognize her then?
Yes, there's no recognize, because that's the first time they met. So that's like about 300-ish, probably years ago, something like this. And
okay,
it was so insane because the moment Cartian gazed at him, and I quote her, he was mesmerizing. So Caphras lit a fuse under that woman so badly.
Got that Caphras riz.
Caphras was, yeah, that's when they met. They met for the first time in the Hexa Kingdom.
Yeah, I'm saying Caphras has got that riz.
Oh, yeah. Oh, by the way, dude, listen, I spoke, our fellow content creator, Kiwi, she was reaching out to me, wondering if she could listen to the podcast while she's gaming, which was super cool. Thanks so much, Kiwi, if you are listening to this.
Yeah, we love Kiwi.
We love Kiwi, that Latina. Anyways, we're talking about Caphras, and I type in chat with her, like, yo, Caphras is making me having considerations. And she looks and she's like, well, I don't blame you if you feel a little bit zesty for it, because I'm zesty too.
He has that effect.
He has that effect. But anyways, back to Cartian, or rather Deborica, which is like, first and foremost, for Cartian to be named Deborica is a Pandora's box. because to be named Deborica means to have an affiliation with the accessory, which is all over the world. And that is crazy. And that's what the video is all about. I'm not going to talk about it today, but they meet there. And she gets a thrive inside of her, which cures her depression. And it literally is, I am seeing, she is a gaping void, and he is an infinite being. It's something that I spoke about earlier. I saw you saw that video of mine. And those two work perfectly together because they become one. And that's one of the chemistries between them. It's so beautiful. And Cartian falls in mad love with him. And she knows that he doesn't give a crap because he is freaking Caphras. Like, he is beyond comprehension of a being, right? But in his infinity, she sees something that could fulfill her. And there is a selfishness here. Caphras doesn't care about her. He just uses her for knowledge, all that he could read in Hexa. And she is pivoting towards him because he is the only thing that she sees worthy of going towards. So there is this magnet thing happening here. So then Caphras leaves, and nobody knows where he goes in that precise time. Remember, this is 300 years ago, around a few years after, apparently, if we believe the old lore is true, where he landed through the tree. He's a servant of Kadum. He's not a good guy.
Yep.
Right? And at that particular time, Cartian goes with Alon Serbin and all that would follow away from Hexa, because Hexa Mary was like fearing her potential, rightfully so. And they got shooed away, and they basically found Tarif. And inside Tarif, things happen, and we get then that, she partners with Elezra in a sense, I guess. And she seals the Book of Cartian, revokes the Black Spirit that was trying to kill her, and Elezra then moves on, etc., etc. And then she's like, I am done. She defeats the Cyclops, and she moves to Ilia to try and live the end of her life like a normal human being.
Just like Caphras did.
Just like Caphras did, and they met again. And they both described this as a good thing. They both described this. They had fun. They had plenty of fun. They loved. They really did. Caphras describes it as love. She describes it as love, but she is, not to be stereotypical, she has her concerns concerning the past. And she thought that they were both wearing a mask. She just can't trust this. But remember, Cartian doesn't know what love is. She knows attraction in a different way. And that's when Orwin is born, and we spoke about this in the Caphras episode. We know this in very big detail. And Cartian ends up losing herself in a very, very tragic way. It felt like she wanted to say to Orwin, I love you. And she never got to say this. And oh my goodness, Orwin is a stupid woman. I hate that character so much, Grim. I want to slap her. If Orwin was in front of me, I would have given her a hook of the century.
She knew everything to fix everything.
She knew everything to fix everything. So for the people wondering, Cartian says that she faked her death in Ilia Island and left Orwin out of the grief, despair, and hatred. Hatred, Grim, right? Hatred, a very important bit. Because Caphras left her without saying something. Orwin has seen the contents of the Caphras journal, where Caphras expresses he loves them so much. He begged Kadum to not hurt him. He was on his knees begging. That's Caphras. He doesn't do it. He doesn't do this, bro. For Caphras to be on his knees and beg, for a character with such magnitude to be desperate, is something different, bro. So he was begging, and Cartian didn't know about this journal. Orwin knew about it. If Orwin shared that with Cartian, all of this could have been avoided. Cartian's death could have been avoided. They could have went forward to the Caphras castle. They could have spoken with him. The family could be together, and that's a crazy family, dude. The strongest human in existence, if we don't count each other, because the moment you become a symbiote with the Black Spirit, you're essentially a Nippo baby, unfortunately. But Cartian is the strongest human, with Caphras the strongest Luthragon, and then the Dark Heart, which is essentially what was it called? Not a ridiculous term. Basically a term that's supposed to put someone down. It's like a, what do you call it, dude? Jesus Christ. Derogatory term, my bad. Derogatory term.
There we go. I was about to say it, but you got it.
Yeah, it's a derogatory term for mixed race humans, right? Because Cartian, a Luthragon Cartian and a Luthragon essentially create a human. And Orwin is not a Ganel. She is not a Ganel. She is a human Luthragon. So people call her Ganel because they just don't know better. They don't know her nature.
Yeah.
And Orwen could have simply said, that's not true, and all of that could have gone through. And then Cartian dies, or presumably soon.
Yeah, I don't think she's dead. She's immortal.
Not immortal though. She's not immortal. Her body is in a slowly decaying state, but it's not like a human lifetime span state. The Black Spirit damaged her internally so bad to the point where she's like walking around and she's like falling to pieces. And that's one of the things about Cartian which I wanted to speak about is Cartian expresses herself as a decomposing in like a cracking state. Think of it like, imagine that you're walking through and cracks start appearing. Oh, remember, yes. Remember that Pirates of the Caribbean movie with that Spanish captain played by Javier Bardem. He was playing this captain that he was like cracking and he was moving and he was like white and black and his teeth were black. And essentially he was missing bits of himself and they were levitating away from him. That's kind of the same thing.
Okay.
I'm gonna put it, you're gonna see it once we upload the podcast episode. But it kind of feels like the same thing. Cartian is a significantly different based on what they drew her on. And I even made a Reddit post about it. I was like, this is what a lore accurate Cartian would be looking like if basically PA followed that narrative, but they chose to make her pretty. But Cartian can put on visages. She learned this from Caphras, which is very important. So the Cartian that we see, that we fight, might not be her. Like how she looked, because she wore a visage. She wore a visage of a sorceress in the beginning.
She did, yeah.
Yeah, and then she showed something different. And she wouldn't like to be seen as a crippled woman, God knows how old. Cartian can't say her piece. She ends up probably dying, and now we got to move to the OG, to Himoti, to himself, to Caphras, and wow, I was, dude, I don't care about if I sound a little bit like a bitch, but I cried during that question. I don't give a fuck that I did. Honestly, this was peak to me. I've waited 7 years to see this guy. I've waited 7 years to see all of those things unfold the way they unfolded. And they unfolded with such a twist to the point where I wasn't prepared for it, which made it even a lot more exciting. And I don't care that it created so many lore issues. It was perfect the way it is. And now Pearl Abyss will fix them. We know that they will.
It was so well done.
It was so well done. The animation, the talking, the voice acting is what I mean. And also, Goyen. Yeah, Goyen came through.
Yep.
So, Pearl Abyss are trying to figure out something about Goyen, and they've made him immortal. Goyen's will and resolve has made him immortal, and he cannot die up until despair is outside of this world. So that's in the Magnus finale. When we went there, we fight Goyen at the end. By the way, crazy skill set. What the hell? That was such a cool fight to be a part of. I honestly think they should make that into a boss that you go every week to kill, just for fun. It's so fun. It's such a cool fight. And
yep.
Goyen is a Chad. Goyen is a warrior Chad. What a Chad that guy is. So
because he's British.
Is he British? Oh, he has a British accent.
He is. Yeah.
I'm kind of Welsh in a sense. Yeah, you're right. So we go into the Magnus and we meet Goyen at the end, and he says he will not die until despair is out of the world. Essentially, he's protecting us against Hadum, and he sits in front of this tree, and he knows that on the other side of this tree is an Aduir fortress, and Aduir is fallen. We know that for a fact. Grim, I'm not sure if you kept up with that. Aduir is
no, you told me the other day.
Yeah, it's so sad. We thought that it was alive, but Aduir has completely fallen. The Luthragon are near extinct, which means that we know that there are 5 Luthragons in existence. So we have the node manager in Camasylvia. We have the Luthragon at the Kum Temple. We had the Luthragon at Muqueen, which is there. We have Caphras, that's the 4th one. And we have the Luthragon Elder. So it's 5 and I guess 6 with Archer. 6
Archer, yeah.
Luthragons in the entirety of the world. Only 6 are left, which is so tragic. And Aduir is falling, and Goyen doesn't really know about it, but it doesn't matter to him because he wants to keep that sealed. And we go with Goyen, and I think Laffy? Was Laffy with us? Yeah, Laffy was with us, but he was hiding all the time. Stupid freaking dwarf. Anyways, Laffy's just a weirdo. He's a thief as well. Anyways, if people wonder why I call Laffy a thief, all of the treasure pieces that we collect within the game is basically him stealing records of Orzeka to recreate. So yeah, not sure if you knew that, Grim, actually. Maybe you did.
Maybe we should bring up those derogatory terms again. A damn dwarf.
Stupid dwarf. Without the adventurers map, because that's Kafris's map. But anyways, maybe he just remade it or something. I don't know. With that being said, the idea of Goyen being there in Orwyn, and we're going through and we're meeting, and we get the most crazy twist, which we didn't even need, to be completely honest. But let me set this up. So within the Kafris episode, we speak about how Kafris is going throughout the world, and he's seeing people warning them about him, but he hasn't been here for a while. You know, it's like we go into the ancient stone chamber, and all of the slates are roughly about 150 years old. They mark the Crown Castle explosion. But the slates are dated at the very least 300 years old. So that's before him. So the slates are warning of a future event. So there's like a premonition of the future here. And Kafris doesn't know what to do about it. And it's never really stated what he thinks about it. But you can piece one and one together that he's probably like, okay. And prior to that, he's in Valencia and he finds scrolls there which warn of his coming and for people to fear him. So it's like something is haunting the guy. And what is haunting the guy turns up being the Crown Castle explosion and Kafris not knowing what he did that day. And we get to recreate the slates of the ancient stone chamber within the Edania region, the continent itself, and we get the original ancient stone chamber slates with all the additional information inside of them. So it turns out that the Crown Castle explosion was not summoning Hadum. Hadum spoke that day. But in reality, what he did was the Crown Castle explosion was summoning a Black Spirit invasion attempt. And when the spirits started coming through the portal, one entered Noir Bertali, and it was a primordial Black Spirit, for all we know, because they kind of do this. And when Noir Bertali dies, he gets sent back over 8,000 years ago. So for the people that want, this is before Sage, this is before Zikea, Kabua, before, like, when I say Kabua, bro, this potentially leads to 12,000 years ago. And it's insane. It is completely insane. And something that they speak about is that Noir Bertali is technically, he's not the first Idana, because he is an Idana that was resurrected to go back, right? So he became an Idana in present time, he died, and he went back. The same way has happened with us. When Elezra stabbed us in Histra, we basically got a primordial Black Spirit, and he was like, yo, let's have a deal. And we are like, I guess. And now we're experiencing Black Desert. So basically that's what happened. But the reality is that Noir Bertali gets sent back such a long time ago, and he is confirmed to be King Kabua, and I fucking hate this so much.
Yeah, when you read the Kabua for artifacts, that's where the theory comes from.
Indeed. So the King Kabua thing is that essentially Noir Bertali founded the kingdom of Kabua, which Sage was a part of. Now Sage was either Austrian or Kabuan, and it doesn't matter which one it was truly. It doesn't matter. But neither for my theory or your theory. But the thing here is that Pierre kind of messing around with this, and they're not really understanding, in my opinion, where that really leads. So you cannot have Sage be the kingdom of Kabua because that is before him. So the entirety of the Sage thing concludes with a very important thing, is that Sage 1 and Sage 2 are stuck in a loop while nobody knows where Sage 3 is, and there is all of a sudden a king who became a Kabua artifact, which is essentially the Sage artifacts. And now that's just a horrible thing to try and explain. You just can't explain it because those are two separate time frames. They happen at two separate times. So you cannot justify him being Sage when Sage is further into the future, and like significantly further.
But what if he's the original Sage, like the Sage before the Sage?
Well, that's like 4,000 years apart. You know, that's
so
like
it's possible.
I hate it. I cannot shut you down. I cannot.
Our Sage might be considered a Decima to him.
Oh man, I hate this. Anyways, the thing here is that Noir Bertali is actually the person who has created the scrolls, the slates, and he's warning the world for Kafris, and he is cursing him because he wanted immortality, and now he is cursed to go back in time, not be immortal, be in a place. But Noir Bertali is a character, bro. So he is the founder of Kabua, and not just that, this means that the Bertali lineage, by technicality, because of the Black Spirit shenanigans, is the longest lineage It's like the emperor of the world type lineage. So
Yeah,
yeah,
so cool.
and also while we are on the topic of Bertali, Igor Bertali is actually a freaking Chad. I don't know if you played the Hero Academia. No, what was it? The Hero School thing update that they did. It's actually quests with so many cutscenes inside, and Igor Bertali is essentially whooping his own ass. His own son's ass in sword combat. It's so funny. You haven't seen this, probably you haven't played it, but I have it recorded. I'll probably cover it at some point in time. But the Adventurers Academy, yes, the Adventurers Academy. So that's super, super, super fun. And we move a little bit going further, and we see a lot of cutscenes. And Kafras essentially tells us about his journeys within this world. He tells us about being all over the world. He hints at things left and right. And a very important thing, Grim, is that he speaks about Aduir falling. And we get the second image of Hadum that we've ever had. And it is Hadum being summoned. And that's a little bit of a not true thing, but probably are rewriting this lore. And we're not sure why they're doing it, but I guess they want to add more complexity and depth to it. We see Kafras being when Hadum was summoned in through the portal. That's not happening because Kafras was born a long while afterwards, according to his own journal. So
yeah, that's conflicting.
That is very conflicting. So there is this portal that opens up, and you see Hadum coming through, and the Luthragons are like eyes open wide in despair and insanity. And within the lore, this is Ulukita knowledge from Society of Equilibrium. Those that did not die instantly at the sight of it grew insane by the moment. What a freaking quote, dude.
Yeah, Hadum is so cool.
Hadum is insane. And, Hadum being confirmed to be female once more. We do see, how that looks. And Kafras does indeed fight. Like, all of the things afterward do indeed take place. But we saw this, and I spoke about this when they started teasing Kafras. They called him the first Luthragon, which implies, he's the first Luthragon that set foot in our world, which is canonically true and still is. But I think they're setting him up for being the first Luthragon ever. Like the first copy, the first son of Sylvia.
Yeah, so they're rewriting some stuff. What sounds of it?
Yeah, it's kind of hinted at this, but from then on, we see Kafras just trying to fend off, and he is sitting in front of devastated Aduir, like just completely devastated Aduir. And everything that happens afterwards, he accepts Hadum's servitude, the fallen god thing, the Deneve, and the ambush, and all the things. And then he comes into that world, and it begins, and it just being essentially confirmed that has happened. And then we get inside the castle when we speak about him. And you get an understanding of how much of a grand character that guy is. And when we got there, I have read a lot of fan fiction. I've read a lot of fiction. I'm a member of this website where people create random stories, and they ask other people for their opinion, and I rate them. And it's just something that I really like doing. I don't think I've spoken to you about this, but I really like to read. I really like to read. And I have read the majority of it, and I know so much about games, lore in general. And I can tell you, with a clean state of mind and absolutely no shadow of a doubt, if I have a top 3 most favorite characters within any mythos of any single thing that I've read, and I've read, dude, hundreds of books, like approaching a few hundreds of books, dude, Kafras is, if not number 1, he's in top 3. If not number 1, he's in top 3. That guy is larger than the game itself, and it's such a shame. It's such a shame that the gaming community doesn't know about him. It's preposterously crazy. So we meet Kafras, and he is, every single king that I'm not a king, but every single king of the castles, I guess, every single one of them, the kings of Edania, the 5, always goes up from their throne and meets us. Nah, Kafras sitting. We ain't worthy yet. And he's like aura farming. He's just speaking random things. He doesn't care. You need to understand that guy has been through everything and all. He understands time-space continuum. So to him,
yeah, we're pretty insignificant compared to him.
Absolutely. And he shows us precisely why. So first and foremost, he tries to kill Orwen, although that's Cavris, and he probably wasn't really testing her. He just knew that nothing's gonna happen. And Orwen thinks, that stupid girl, thinks that you can shoot Cavris' own weapon at him. For the people that do not know, the origin of ancient light is created by Cavris. It is his and his own thing to take. So Orwen shoots the origin of ancient light, which is, by the way, within our lore and mythos, the strongest weapon within our arsenal. There's nothing stronger than this. And you don't want to shoot the origin of ancient light. Essentially, she sacrificed the weapon. That moment, Orwen just took it, shot it at Cavris, and it created this huge explosion. Plot twist, Cavris just held it in his hand, and he was like, by the way, who do you think created this? It was I. And he snaps his finger and it explodes in his hand. And it's like the coolest aura farm moment, dude. And he speaks at that moment. Actually, he didn't say that he created this. He said, who do you think created the Knights of Dawn? It was I. And he snaps his fingers and the origin of ancient lights creates a small explosion within his hands. And that's one of the biggest aura farms, because this confirms that Cavris meddles with time and space, which makes him even more crazy, because, Grim, we know that the Knights of Dawn were from approximately, who knows, maybe like 6,000 years ago. So Cavris wasn't here at that time, so he was doing things from the future to try and impact the past so that the past rewrites itself into resolve the issue with Hadum. So that's that's a crazy thing to see. And there is a little bit of a theory around that. See, everybody notices how the castles in Edania are not really looking natural, right? They're like out of place. They're like, okay, what is this? Like, how is there a big castle amidst everything and it's like popping from the ground? That's because they're not supposed to be there. Something happened which spawned them to be there for them. And we think that this is the blessing of Hadum. Hadum essentially created fortresses for them. And the castle of Zephyros, we do believe is something probably reminiscing upon Aduir. Possibly. We don't really know. But typically, if you look into the architecture of things, it kind of reminisces, if you look in Nymphomare with the water and everything, you look at Jordine with the lightning, you look at, Enslar with the Lancius coming from the ground, it plays on upon their fantasies. And
yeah, it's very reminiscent of their topography.
Absolutely, the topography, well said. And one of the things which I cannot comprehend is we went all out not on Cavris but on a clone, and we didn't even know. That is the craziest thing about Cavris, because at the first stage of the Cavris fight, when he engages her, basically when we shoot Origin of Ancient Light, he kind of gets pissy, and he said, he said, I showed you mercy once and you wouldn't have it. And when he said it, goosebumps came at the back of my neck. It happened right now as I told you this. And Cavris just starts coming out, and he turns into this big beast type thing, and it's a whatever form. And then we defeat that form, and we start having a fight with him. And when we defeat him, turns out that it's not him, it was a clone. And Cavris just teleports behind us, and pretty much on pen and paper kills us. So people don't really know this, because they don't really do the question. They think that the ones that are in Zephyros, the few people that can kill Cavris, I'm not sure why PA did that. It makes no sense for those fights to be like this. They have more phases within this storyline that they have in combat. It's so weird, and we're disgruntled by it. I think we've shared our opinions on this.
Absolutely.
But Cavris basically pulls out the heart of Adamagia from Elezra, and I think this was their plan. Elezra was to give the heart of Adamagia to unlock it so that she could give it to Cavris. Although that doesn't make a lot of sense. It's so crazy. There's other things about the heart of Adamagia, yet we see plenty of heart of Adamagias inside Edania. There's a different bit of them. There's a lot of sage architecture, which is essentially Kabuan architecture. And Cavris pulls out Heart of Adamagia, stuns us, we cannot move, and he starts draining the Black Spirit away from us, and he does, which means that we die instantly, because when we don't have a Black Spirit, the deal stops, and we die, because we are only alive because of him. And Elezra comes through in that particular moment, shoves her black spirit staff, which is essentially the staff of the second strongest black spirit, inside the heart. It explodes, and Khafrus cannot believe what just happened because he recognizes this. He knows what this is all about. And then comes the most brutal sequence of combat within our freaking game because we get to become the king in that particular moment. But remember, Khafrus is immortal. No matter what we throw at him, he will not die. He is immortal in body. He is immortal in soul. This will stall perpetually. And we throw all of the things that we have in him, and eventually he drops on the ground, and Elezra comes through. And she kind of comes through in such a particular moment, and all of a sudden, somehow, like, our body kind of doesn't, all of a sudden, like, we were whooping his ass as a king of Edania, and all of a sudden we just kind of like spaz a little bit and we lose control over it when Elezra arrives, which is a very interesting thing. And finally, dude, you know, Elezra does the Elezra step, which is one of the craziest thing ever. For people wondering what the Elezra step is, Elezra is known to be able to stop time. That is, I spoke about this in my Elezra is a God video, which is, I'm so happy that turned out to be true. What a theory that was. And Elezra does the stop in time, which means that Elezra can literally, let me just explain for people that don't know. Elezra was with us all this time. It's how she appears around us at any point in time where she wants to. She is with us because she stops time and she moves around us so that she is never seen. She is constantly watching. She is constantly around us. She doesn't ever leave us. That's like, she is kind of like pampering us to be the king of Edania with her assistance. That's the entirety of this thing, this metaphor. And Elezra does the step, which means she stops time, she walks past us, and she gets to Khafrus. And we're wondering why at that moment. And Khafrus looks to her, he grabs her hand and says, "Mother." And I lose my shit. Oh man, that was a crazy.
Yeah, we knew straight away she's Sylvia at that point.
And yes, and Khafrus at that point, he decides to shed his mortal coil. He no longer needs that, so he reunites with his mother, which is always what he wanted to do. Khafrus was desperate for the love of Sylvia. He was desperate for ever just to hear his mother and to see his mother. That's what he wanted. And Elezra turns around us. We are confused what's going on. She pulls out the cloak and she reveals that she is indeed Sylvia. And the ending of Black Desert Arc 1 is precisely this very moment, although we still have a few things to go through, like separate, side plots, etc., like Edania Part 2 and Dawnbreak, etc. But that is the craziest thing. The craziest thing, like the recap of Edania and Khafrus and everything is absolutely insane. And here is the craziest bit about this Grimm, because the craziest reveal is not around Khafrus, for Elezra to admit that she is Sylvia, because she then tells us that Hadum is also Sylvia, and everybody is a little bit confused, and she explains that she was shattered by her children. Now, if we go back in time and we look into how the Elven mythos came to be, the Vidir, formerly the Vidir, now the Ahibs, they expressed that the greed of the spirits shattered Sylvia with the help of the Ganels. And Elezra tells us that her children shattered her. So the Ahibs confirm this, and the Elezra encounter confirms this, which means that the Ganels are the pieces of shit. Now, that's a very cool thing. And also, by the way, Grimm, Ibidor is responsible for the things that happened in Star's End. Ibidor was the person who essentially caused the entirety of the War of the Roses, which, if you remember, is a conflict based on the premise of something very important. There are two factions which are rebellious factions within the Ganels and the Ahibs. The Ganel faction are basically led by Narchilian, and the Amelia the Mad, that's the queen that took over Catherine by killing her. And the Star's End quest chain and the Altar of Blood things and everything that happens in there is for them to try and meddle with the God Aride magic, and Amelia gets sacrificed to the God Aride. And on the other side, the Sephirahibs are led by Sephir. You know, in War of the Roses, you get to see her as well. She's pretty great as well, powerful character. The Sephirahebes, all of those, both of them worship Hadum. And what the elves try, and this is, by the way, all happening through Ibidor. Ibidor is the originator of this entire conflict. And what happens was the elves go in a civil conflict to cleanse those who wish to summon Hadum, saying that Hadum is Sylvia and the other elves don't trust them. What the actual...
That's crazy.
That is insane. So everything that when the Sephir calls that Hadum is the mother of retribution, and Viorenciodor is like, you're insane, but I have to deal with you because I cannot stand another conflict within my people, Sephir is telling the truth. Sephir paid the price canonically. She lost. The first War of the Roses was won by the Ganels, and essentially, canonically speaking, Sephir should have died. But we're not sure if Pearl Abyss will confirm this. We want to know who is the winner of that conflict, but it doesn't matter who the win is because both of those worship Sylvia as the mother of retribution. And the elves want to kill them because they do not believe this to be true because it's Ibidor. Ibidor told the truth and he sparked the most brutal conflict within the elves. This entire genocide, which they're doing, the elven genocide, is freaking brutal. And no wonder Elezra doesn't set foot in Kama Sylvia and Odilita, dude. We never get to see her. She's not a part of those stories. If you think about it, she's never there.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, think about the amount of despair that was generated from that too.
Exactly. And she wants to stay away from Hadum to the best of her ability because she's not strong enough to take on Hadum. She needs us to do it. But just this entire train of thought, man, this entire... Oh my goodness. So the elven conflict of them killing their own sisters because the mother of retribution is Sylvia, which it is technically by, it makes sense. Hadum is Sylvia, Elezra is Sylvia. They're just two bits of her. And it just went so crazy because the elves are killing one another over nothing. Over absolutely nothing.
It's actually nothing. That's crazy.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. But we haven't spoken in detail about the War of the Roses. That will come in the distant future. We'll see when, because we have a lot of topics prior to this. We still have to go through Dragon Lore. We have to go through Histra. We have so many things. But a very important thing that we have to talk about right now, Grim, is then who is the Thornwood Goddess and who is the Dark Goddess? Now, that is where things crumble. This is what we spoke with Pearl Abyss about, the lore keepers. We were like, guys, it doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't make sense in a good way because, Grim, if you remember how we started the Orzeka episode with the Song of Tunta, remember that one?
Yeah, Song of Tunta and the Child of Thorns and everything.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the thing, that it no longer makes sense because that became the Thornwood Goddess, which is now Hadum. So Hadum is here.
Yeah.
So Hadum being summoned, however, it can be Sylvia. Because Hadum was shattered into our world and Hadum chose to exit our world and to go inside Elvia as the mother of retribution. So that can be in fact it. But then the Dark Goddess, who? Elezra. Elezra is definitely the Dark Goddess. So it could be that they were the same entity working at the same time, and it could be that the Thornwood Goddess simply disappeared into Elvia and then the Dark Goddess took over, but it doesn't make a lot of sense because they do different things. Ors confirms that the Dark Goddess was freed and she built the Kuturan. But in fact, it was the Thornwood Goddess. So those things no longer work and I don't want to meddle with them. Pearl Abyss need to fix them and we'll see if they decide to fix them. But Grim, we have one very important topic which we have to talk about. Altar of Blood.
Yeah, that's coming, apparently. We'll go there again.
That is coming. We're gonna go there again. And I think this is the way you phrased it is perfect because we're gonna go there again. I don't think this is a matter of an update, which is going to be essentially, we removed Altar of Blood because it didn't work in the past, which I'm not even sure if that's even remotely close to the truth. It worked. It had its issues.
People loved it.
People loved it. They retconned the entire thing and now they're bringing it back. But I think that they're not going to bring it back as in, let's rework the old story. No, I think we're getting back to the Altar of Blood. So we've already went once and now we're going to go back to it, which is great. because I spoke about this recently. There's a new model of Caphras. We have no idea what's going on. It's been data mined, and I can't wait to see it. And there are quite a lot of things are being uploaded. Remember, it's supposed to happen in March, which is not a lot of time up until then.
Yep.
And it's going to have its own story. We're seeing files being uploaded, Altar of Blood files. It's like reworked from head to top. And I can't wait for it because there is a very important hanging plot right now. And Pearl Abyss are building up Kazarka once more. And I can't wait, dude. I cannot wait. Our boy Kazarka. He did nothing wrong.
Poor God of Hope.
Poor God of Hope. That is insane. That poor God. That poor thing, Kazarka. He was the wrong. He's like king of being wrong done.
Yeah.
But we don't want to spoil that because that will happen in its own episode. Although we did speak about Orzeka, but I guess we can say something from the Seraph bit. Kazarka confirms that he was a good god. Kazarka confirmed that he was benevolent. He confirmed that the corruption of his flesh was not his own doing. He admits that he was burned to a crisp. All that you see that Kazarka is, that red, and all of those stones a part of him are the fused element of the temple, which they burned on top of it, and they collapsed on top of him. So Kazarka was burned alive and then shoved into the abyss. And so many things happened afterwards. And you know, the topic of Kazarka having a black spirit shard, oh my god, what a rabbit hole. That is a 1-hour episode as well. It's insane.
Ooh.
But what makes it crazy is, without jumping onto the thing, we just got to finish this particular segment, is that Elezra comes afterwards and says, by the way, I gave you a shard, didn't I? It's like, what the hell did you just say, woman? Are you Kazarka?
What?
Yeah, like, are you, like, how does that work? And I'll tell you how it works. Sylvia was shattered into Hadum and Elezra. One of them is the Thornwood goddess, the other one is the Dark goddess, whichever one of which gave birth to the Kuturan, and the Kuturan has the essence of Sylvia. Sylvia gave birth to Kazarka. Kazarka is essentially a grandson of Sylvia, in a sense.
Yep.
So when she says, I gave you a shard, could be that Kazarka is the hope of Sylvia, because Hadum is the insanity of Sylvia, Elezra is the reason of Sylvia, Kazarka is the hope of Sylvia. Like, a lot of things are happening in BDO's lore, and I'm going to tease something right now, and I'm very, very upset with it, and I want people to understand why I'm upset with it. Recently, Pearl Abyss started moving gods from male to female, and I don't like that.
Yeah, they did. Like Lord Elion, not male, that's no longer the case.
Yeah. And they did it in such a nonchalant way. Basically, they went with a very silly YouTube video on the Korean page, and they said that everybody worshipped the goddess Elion. And I got so pissed, and everybody in the lore section got so pissed. We started ranting like wild, and lo and behold, the next week update came through, and they did Agris female as well. Agris was the messenger of God, and Agris was male, and now they did Agris female as well. And they didn't just do that with a saying. No, they redacted Agris's entire lore. Nowhere it says that he's Lord, nowhere it says that he's male. Now it's the goddess Agris. So from god, goddess, etc., etc. And there is a very popular theory that everyone is Sylvia, and that the Black Spirit are the potential blood of Sylvia. Remember what Tunta said, the bloodless lips? Right?
Oh, he did, yeah. He mentioned, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And also he said that she will transcend time. Remember that? So the Black Spirit transcends time, the bloodless lips, right? That's a very niche little catch. Although the Song of Tunta is obsolete because Thornwood goddess, right? But yeah, there's so many things happening right now within the lore, and there's so much to talk about. But this episode is way over 1 hour. We did our due diligence to do an Edania recap with an emphasis on Caphras, of course. And we didn't go too much into the details. Obviously, when time comes and we start doing the Balanos things and we start talking about Jardine, we'll do Rusalka and Slar with the Calpheon, etc. I want to keep those a little bit more isolated in their own way so that people can get a more precise, or like concise, I think is the better word, right? When something is packed up in a better way.
I do have 2 questions before we wrap up.
Of course, please.
Okay, so who is the sage we're seeing in Edania?
All right. Oh, that's such a good thing. I almost forgot about that. So, okay, when we do the fallen god question, thank you so much for reminding me this, because this was in the notes and I totally forgot about it. Yeah, I'm stupid. When we, yeah, good job, by the way. That's what a co-host does. All right, that's what. So, whenever we do the fallen, not the fallen god, pardon me, the King of Edania, the Godslayer armor question. Lofty Bed Mountain basically says, oh my god, Kaphras is a vicious animal, because he was translating a particular tablet or like a script, and Kaphras went into Ataraxian at one point, and he said that he needed someone to operate the armor instead of him, because he couldn't handle the armor of the power of the armor, because only Edanas can handle this power. And only a King of Edania can truly comprehend its abilities. And Kaphras was wearing this armor, and he was trying to fight Hadum. Like, Kaphras actually had an encounter with Hadum in this armor, which is like a what? But it was never mentioned outside of this quest. It's insane. It's absolutely crazy indeed. And one of the things that he says is that he went into Ataraxian because he had to find someone to be able to, at the very least, walk inside of it, because he couldn't. And he said, and it says inside, I found something within Ataraxian that could be of use to me. I carved flesh and sinew alike to create something that could operate it. Essentially, he found the Kives, and he found the Sage Recreation thing, and we don't know what precisely he did, but the reason for which in Edania question we see the power of Edania, of the Godslayer armor being operated by Sage, is because Kaphras went into Ataraxian, he created a Sage copy and placed it inside of it, and kind of as if lobotomized it or something like this, just so it could operate. So that's the answer to that. And it's insane because do you know something very important? Do you remember when we go inside Ataraxian, specifically with the Ors bit, and we don't find the bodies of the Dekimas that are just sitting there in the dead state?
Yeah, they're not in their little, like, chambers.
Yep, only Ors is there. Kaphras did something. We don't know if that is truly what happened. Our dear lore keeper Volcornbeat actually went into the Korean translation of this to try and find a lot more detail, and there was a little bit of weird translations that don't make any sense, but in reality what it states is that in the Korean translation was that he basically used the Sage body. But in our translation it's hinted that he didn't use the Sage body, whatever flesh he found, and the only flesh, because remember there is no flesh that can be recreated inside those Kives, because that process is done, right?
Yeah, so
the only
flesh there,
exactly, he used the Dekimas, but we don't know which one it is, and it doesn't really matter. Both of them are freaking horrific. It doesn't matter.
That's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad. So he carves flesh and sinew, and that's about it. And what about the second question?
You're gonna show people your concepts of Zaka?
Oh, we can actually do this, but it's not really my concept. I meddled around with AI like a fiend. So let me tell you people what I did. So what I do is I do smart works with AI. I don't like the idea of AI ripping people off. I really don't enjoy it. But unfortunately in BDO, we don't have that fan base to have the passion yet. I'm hosting right now an art contest where I'm trying to get people excited to start reading and drawing lore figures and lore designs and everything, like concept art, so the Pearl Abyss could get excited as well and, you know, just show the love for the game. And I essentially do outlines, and I give those outlines to the AI art, and I gave them the original Belmorn and Kazarka summoning, and I did an outline over the top of it. So basically I just provided an outline, and then I gave it to AI art, and I gave them the original images, and I told them essentially, can you please do this, this, and that for me? So after about, I think it was like 20 or 30 prompts, he spewed out the image that you see above, and this is what I imagine as the perfect Kazarka during the time of Urzeka, when he was the only light inside, when he was the benevolent god.
Yeah, I hope it was like that, like the alabaster skin, the golden.
Yes.
It's so good.
Yes, it is so absolutely insane. And AI art, bro, is going out of its way, because the first time you saw it, you couldn't guess it's AI. There's no hint of it. It's like, this is a quality, crazy piece. There is barely any errors inside. There is barely any things that you could say, oh my God, here's the sixth finger. You know, those days are
Yeah,
gone.
well, it's the third hand, you know.
Yeah, third hand, sixth finger, you know, things blurred together. AI art is going outside. And sooner or later, you know, Prolibus are using it and they're actually starting to learn how to use it properly without slop, right?
Yep.
Slop is the very important bit. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of this episode. It was so good to be back with you, Grim. I really miss doing this, man.
Yeah, we do them more regularly.
We shall do our best. No promises to do them as regularly as possible. But yeah, everybody, please like and subscribe. I beg of you, please do share this with your friends. Make sure you join the Discord. Make sure you check all of our social media. Grim, where can they find you, dude?
I stream on Twitch, same name.
Grimmkill. All right, and
Yeah.
you guys know where to find me. I'm Verdict the Mystic at Verdict Loves You everywhere across all social media, and you guys can find me there. But for now, see you guys. Bye bye.
Later.